The other thing that really strikes me is just the degree of craftsmanship, how cleanly things are executed. When you think of craftsmanship, what does that mean to you? What do you think makes good craftsmanship?
Obviously, attention to detail, you know,
Hmm.
and always striving for that next level of detail that reveals itself, and not becoming complacent. You know, once you can achieve, you know, we can see we have goals as craftspeople, and then we achieve them. But I think the best craftspeople, after that is achieved, that's not where it stops. It's just like another level of minutia shows up.
Right.
So I think that's how I got to the level of refinement. Um, Sometimes not in the most healthy way, you know, because I would kind of just fixate on it, and be paralyzed, like carve a neck for a month straight, because I like wanted every line to be perfect, and
Yeah.
it was problematic. But yeah, I think it's just attention to detail, and a willingness to redo if you
Right.
missed it, and not just move on. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not all about the end product. I think so, most of the times we see the end product and then we go, that's great craftsmanship.
Mm.
But it's possible to make something look really great at the end, um, and sort of cheat it in a way. Like maybe if something isn't actually executed that well, sometimes it can end up, through some nefarious tricks. It can end up looking like it was really well executed.
Yeah.
Um, and sort of that's I don't know, that's where I draw the it's about actually doing it
Yeah.
cleanly,
But
like really
you
doing
gotta
it
have
clean.
those in your pocket though too, because as you know, a guitar is such a long-term project
Mm.
that it took me a long time to get to this point where I have a very visual mind, so I can picture the guitar in its whole before I even really pull the woods down, you know. Uh,
Hmm.
but that can be its own barrier, because then sometimes something goes wrong, or you know, and you have to, and the project might take months to build. So you can't always just scrap it. You have to kind of move on with it, and that's
Right.
hard. So there's some of that, but I do think that there's lots of instruments out there that clearly something was missed, and then you just look around the edge over and say like, now it's not missed anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, as you identified, for my particular aesthetic, it wouldn't work that way, because it would just look formless, because there's nothing to pull together, like, you know, decorative inlay and stuff like that, and really fancy woods and whatnot can really pull a design together. But if you strip that away, then it has to be about the execution.
Mm.
That's like, as you mentioned, that's the detail then, right? So
Right. But then, so when you're designing something, at what point do you normally start thinking about how you're going to execute the design? Because it seems like when you're trying to execute things super cleanly and you're trying to keep the design simple, um, there are like the intelligent things you can do while designing to basically facilitate, to make it easier for yourself to really nail the execution.
yeah,
Um, and that's something that I also notice in your work. There are aspects of details that I go, that's just really clever that he decided to do it in that way. Because it just seemed like it takes that little bit of stress off of the execution.
hmm,
Um, is that something that you consciously think about while you're designing?
yeah,
Um, and is it something that because you can design something and have a whole concept and then go, this is what I want to do, and then figure out how to do it. Or at every step of the process, you can go, okay, well, how am I actually going to do this little thing?
yeah,
Um, so how do you approach that sort of thinking ahead in your craftsmanship as you design?
yeah. Well, I guess first up, I'm not a purist, so I'm not like uh, opposed to using jigs and, you know, routers, stuff like that. I don't think there's much use in being purist. How far back do you go before the chisel? Before internal lighting. I don't know. So
Yeah.
what's perfect? So a lot of my designs, in terms of say widths or radiuses, are based on available router bits or things I have that are certain diameters. I will have a vague idea what I want it to look like, but then as I start to design it, I think about what I can use to cut that cleanly without, and repeatedly,
Right.
Yeah. So that gets into it, so definitely. And then the other thing I think about a lot, and my shopmate Layla CD and I talk about this a lot. I think that like the current arrangement, societal arrangement, capitalist workaday life doesn't leave much space for like armchair philosophy and like figuring out how to live a life and be a human. Eat when you need to eat, sleep when you need to sleep. All that kind of stuff is sort of thwarted by pressures on our time. And one of the things that drew me to guitar building and craft in general was that I wanted to be autonomous. I come from a farm where there's lots of work to do and people work hard, but it's on their own. No one's telling them when to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So having said that, in terms of how that relates to clean craftspersonship, I think about guitar building as part of my entire life. So I exercise and I eat well, and I try to sleep, though I'm not very good at sleeping. And then I don't rush the job. So if I need to do, say, carving the heel, and my heels are really precise and now have become their own aesthetic. And so I can't, if I miss that, it's not one of my guitars anymore, right? So if I'm not feeling up to the task, I don't do that task. I have a sort of maybe a hierarchy of tasks. I'll do something that is less taxing if I'm not feeling like I can do that job. And so I don't do the job unless I know I can do the job.
Like the psychological part of things it gets pretty hard at times. It's like I don't know if you're very critical of yourself. It sounds like you are. And I think that's like the cornerstone of craftsmanship is telling yourself you suck.
Yeah. Although, so I did that forever. I've only built 36 guitars in 16 years. All right.
Okay.
And I build like 8 a year. It's getting quicker now.
Yeah.
So that was the thing I had to get over, and my partner's been instrumental in that. The guitar would just look like a series of things I wish I did better to me. I wouldn't see it as its like whole, even once they got to be quite good. So I keep detailed notes about what I want to improve on next time, and then I have to just let it go and say, this is the best I can do at this point. I can stand behind my honest effort to do as good as I can. I'm not being dishonest with anybody here. And here's the guitar, and that's helped a lot. Because otherwise, you're right. Like, you have to be super self-critical to like do the work well. But if you're too much like that, you never get the work done. You never finish anything. And there's something to be said about just finishing a bunch of guitars as well.
Definitely.
You know?
That's the thing that I'm torn with. It's like you hear these stories of like Sam Guidry at Gallup, and then it's like in a year they bought like 100 guitars while he was an apprentice. It's like, what the fuck? So that's like the one side. If you have that, then obviously you're gonna get good at what you're doing because you've done it so many times. But then the other side of it is being so critical of yourself that you feel like you want to do it really well the first time already, and then try finding I don't know how you find the balance between those things. They seem like the two complete opposite sides of the spectrum of how to like learn.
Yeah.
So it's still the part I'm struggling with.
I was always thinking I was going to make like guitar that like people could afford to buy.
Right.
Everybody could afford to buy.
Yeah.
Well, that's impossible. So I had to make the decision that I'm making luxury goods. And so I can take the time to make them. I'm never going to build 25 guitars a year. I'd like to build 10 or 12 maybe. That decision, making the decision really clearly was helpful for me to get over that of like, okay, this is just going to take a long time. And I'm going to be known for precision, and high instruments, and they're not going to be approachable for everybody, and that's just where I'm at.
Mm. Yeah.